Hi, welcome to the JET program guide to doing your interview. This is Sam here, and I'm glad to welcome you back. If you landed an interview thanks to the revision service guide, congratulations. Pat yourself on the back. I'm glad you did. And we're going to go over a bunch of stuff today. I'm going to go one by one and just help give you the heads up of what you should know and what you can do to help you pass that interview and get in the JET program for the 2022, 2023, and beyond applications. So let's begin. My first advice for your JET interview is to review the JET program's website. Go through that and go through your country's JET program website. So there's the main site, and then your home country should have a website as well. Go through and review all that information a few times just before the interview. That way you'll have a heads up of maybe the questions you want to ask. You already have everything you need to know before the interview, so you won't be asking any weird questions. You'll kind of get a really good idea of everything that the JET program is about. Again, it's always good to refresh your mind, even though you may think you know everything about the JET program. The website has a lot of information, a lot of details you just might not even know. So always best to go through both of those resources and to go through any other resources like jetprogramguide.com, because I might actually have some extra information on there as well. But just stick to the two main websites, go through them, take some notes, familiarize yourself with those, and that will help you a lot towards the JET interview. My next piece of advice is to know your SOP and know your application well. Read them once a day, every day, until your interview, and even on interview day when you have time. You should know this information in and out. You should know everything about it. You should know everything about yourself, because when you go to do the JET interview, this is the very important stuff for when you go to talk with a panel. They might ask you, what are your aspirations? What are your future plans? Where'd you go to school? What did you do? So on and so on. And all that stuff is answered in your application and statement of purpose. So just go through that, review it as much as possible. Even though it gets really annoying, you'll have it down. You won't regret it, and you'll have a good feeling when you go to do that interview, because you'll be able to recall all this information without stuttering, not being relaxed. You'll be cool, you know everything, and you'll be able to get that information out, and you'll be able to continue answering question after question that they'll ask you from the panel, and you won't be struck by anything surprising that you might not have known before or forgotten. So always best just to go and review that information day in and day out, at least once a day. Once a day will help you plenty. And that was what helped me pass my JET interview, was just knowing my SOP and my application inside and out. The next piece of advice is to practice as much as possible in front of a mirror or with a family member or friends, or another applicant who is also going to interview. You could go on Reddit, you could go online, try and find someone else who also landed an interview, and work with them to just practice with one another as much as possible. And that is one of the best ways to help you do this interview, is to just practice by yourself in a mirror, talking aloud, saying all your answers to the questions, and to just explain yourself, explain who you are, and to just keep doing that over and over and over until your interview. That way you'll be comfortable and you'll be confident to talk with the panel of people, whether it's online or in person. You can practice with a friend. That will be such an enormous help with you, and saying all of your answers and being able to correct yourself and fix what you want to say when it comes down to the interview time. Me and my friend, we practiced for about 2.5 weeks before our interview, and that really helped us when it came to having the interview in person and to be able to explain ourselves, answer all the questions that the judges have. And if you need some practice and you don't want to practice in front of the mirror, I developed a mock interview on YouTube channel here. And you can take that mock interview. It's like 15 minutes. I have a series of questions, of common questions I think would be asked during the JET interview. Do it over and over again. If you don't want to use the same question, well, just change the question. Find a different question you have written out. Don't pay attention to what I ask, but you can follow the timer, and that'll help you relay everything to the judges, the panel, about what you want to say when it comes time to the interview. You need to be able to do this for your interview. You need to be able to have a clear voice, enunciate what you want to say, everything an ALT would do in the classroom. You just want to be able to relay all your thoughts, opinions, all your answers to the JET program panel when it comes time to interview. So next, you need to know how to answer the big questions: why you want to go to Japan, why you want to live in Japan, why you want to be on the JET program, why you want to be an ALT, what you want to do in Japan, what you're going to do after Japan. These are some of the big questions you're going to be asked for the JET interview. So prepare for them by memorizing first what's in your SOP about these questions. You should have something related in there. Next, if there's nothing in your SOP for some of these questions, write them out. Write them out and then practice reading them, practice elaborating on them, practice just memorizing those answers, and that'll help you prepare for the JET program. And do this over and over again. And when you need more questions to look over and to think about, on the JET program website, I have a list of over 100 different questions. I tried to make them universal, and you can go through them and look at the bold ones, which I think are the most important, and you can look at the ones that are just kind of random and go through them and see what you think might be relevant to you when you're going to interview. Some of these questions are kind of just crazy, like who's your favorite authors, who's your favorite musicians, name some historical figures, so on and so forth. But some of these are real JET interview questions. Now, some of them are probably older and they probably won't apply to you, but who knows? It can just give you a general idea of what to expect and to be ready for the interview. The biggest thing you can do is to memorize the answers and to write them out to the questions you know you're going to be asked. Like, why the JET program? Why do you want to be an LT? What are you going to do after you finish with the JET program? These are very simple questions, a little bit complex, but they shouldn't be outside your comfort zone. They should all be easy to express and to tell the judges well on the panel when you're going to do the interview process, whether it's online or in person. Have those down. Just work on them as hard as possible. Have them down for the interview and you'll be very successful. During the interview, you're going to be tested about your flexibility. And they might ask you a question, how do you deal with homesickness? How do you deal with a class of rowdy students? How do you deal with the pandemic? You want to be able to take these kind of negative questions and make them very positive. So, for example, how do you deal with a rowdy class of students that won't pay attention during your English lesson? My Japanese isn't great. However, I think I could communicate with the JTE about what I want to do in class, and then we can work out how to get the students organized and paying attention to the lesson. Maybe the approach I took or the approach I thought I took was good, just wasn't necessarily working. Their level might be different. They might not be able to understand. I could take some steps to stand back, look at where the lesson went wrong, how to improve it, so on and so forth. And then these rowdy kids for this class might actually be good. They might actually really enjoy the lesson. They might learn some English from it. Some classes are very tough. As someone who's had some pretty rough schools in the past, it's not necessarily, oh, I planned the best lesson possible. It's more that I plan the most flexible lesson as possible. Does this lesson meet the criteria for all the different levels of English in class? Does the JT understand it? Do I understand how to implement it well? These are some things that you really need to think about critically when answering some tougher questions. So being able to take a negative and make it into a positive. Like, what are you going to do about homesickness? Well, a couple of hobbies that I can pursue that are possibly COVID friendly, because, you know, we're living in the world of COVID. So outdoor activities like, I can participate in doing outdoor sports. I feel like that's safe and comfortable. It'll help with homesickness, help me make friends, so on and so forth. So you want to be able to take a negative and turn it into a positive and do it right on the spot. Think about some hard negative questions you might be asked and how you can take those negatives, turn them into a positive, and show you're flexible, outgoing, and willing to do great things on Jet. Next tip of advice: dress well. Don't wear a Godzilla t-shirt to your interview. Dress in a suit, dress in a tie, everything. Or whatever floats your boat. Whatever makes you look really good for the interview, whatever is your professional dress code that will work for you, that you feel comfortable in, do it. For guys, just wear a suit, tie, nice shirt, pants, belt, dress shoes, everything. Even if it's at home and it's on Skype, just dress up. Look good for Zoom calls. Even though you're not in the same room, or maybe you are going to be in the same room for the interview, always just best. Dress to impress. Who knows, if you have to stand up and you're not wearing dress pants, well, you might have a problem. They might ask you, like, why do you look like this? So just dress up entirely. Do it so you're ready for the interview. Who knows, you might have to stand up and do some kind of mock interview teaching lesson. You might have to stand back from the webcam and adjust it if it's on Zoom. But just dress well and look your best, and you'll feel really good too. When you dress up well, you look nice, your hair's combed, brush your teeth, everything like that. You'll feel really good when you go into the interview. You'll feel empowered. You'll have all this energy and excitement. You won't feel nervous. So that's one thing you can do, is just dress to impress. Dress how you would for any interview and do it very appropriately, whether it's in person or online. Another part I want to discuss about the interview is just kind of your mannerisms you should have. You should know who your audience is. It's going to be some ex-jets. It's going to be somebody from the consulate, or it could be a Japanese person from the community on the panel. Just to know who your panel is going to be and adapt with the appropriate mannerisms that you would. If everyone greets you in English, greet in English, or if it's English and Japanese, greet in both. All consulates, all panels, all people are very different. And also try to keep out any distractions. So don't have any cell phones, don't have any TVs going, just have the monitor in front of you. Don't even have notes on the monitor in front of you. That could distract you, and it could show you're not paying attention to this interview. You should just be on camera only. You should have no cats, nothing running around if you possibly can. Do it in a quiet place, have good lighting, make sure your camera functions well, make sure you look good on camera, just dress up, see how you would appeal on camera beforehand. You can do that. You can make sure your microphone works well, everything. Or if it's going to be in person, even better. That's a lot less stuff you don't have to worry about. It's a 15 to 20 minute interview. It's pretty short. Most interviews in America for other like corporate jobs are like hours, 2 hours long, stuff like that, multiple interviews. This is just one interview that you have to worry about. Make sure you talk appropriately, use the appropriate wording, follow your audience, the judges, greet them how they want to be greeted, and everything like that. And it should be pretty easy on that part. The final thing I want to talk about is asking questions. At the end of the interview, you're going to have a chance to ask a few questions. And they can be anything you want, but have them on something you don't know or you're not very sure about, something you haven't heard about online, something that's not mentioned on the JET website, and so on. There's many different questions you can ask. You could ask, well, how was your stay in your small town in Japan when you were there? This could be a question for one of the ex-jets. Or, how is the JET program dealing with shipping out people because of the different COVID variants? Do you know anything about the process? Do jets get delayed? Do they have to maybe quarantine in the town they're going to be in? How is this stuff working out? And those are legitimate questions to ask. So ask something good that you don't really have a good answer to, that you haven't found a good answer to online. Be creative, make sure it's focused, and there's nothing wrong with asking some kind of like personal question to the ex-jets, like how I did, like, How was it adapting to school life in Japan? You know, everyone's experience is different. How was your experience different? Do you have any advice? Doing stuff like that can really help out with the interview and making things entertaining and keeping the attention of the panel, and prepare a couple questions and be prepared to maybe ask questions that you never thought of that you might come up with during the interview. Even though it's a very short interview, there's nothing wrong with having a new question out of the blue for the end of the interview. There's no bad questions, but there could be really bad questions, so always just prepare something. Okay, this is the final part about the interview. When it comes to doing this interview, just make sure you practice the 7 to 8 things I've talked about. Make sure you go through them well. Take your time. Don't rush when you're in the interview. You shouldn't be rushing your questions. You should be trying to say them naturally. Don't worry if you're nervous. Don't worry if you stumble. To practice everything and to just do it over and over and over again. Practice with a friend. Write out your questions, remember your answers, be able to elaborate on more stuff, know your application well. Have a good space where you're going to do your interview, make sure it's set up, or if it's going to be in person, that as well. Just try to stay focused. You only have a short time before the interview, you might have a few weeks. Just prepare every single day. You shouldn't have a day where you don't prepare. It's only in a few weeks, and it's only a 15-minute interview. But in that amount of time, you should be able to prepare everything. You should be ready. You should have it nailed and down for the interview. If you need more advice or practice, you can try out my mock interview. You can read through the 100 questions. You can read through my interview guide. Check online. Check what Reddit and other websites say and tell you what you can do. This is just my general advice. And just prepare as soon as possible. Be excited. Don't be nervous. But nervousness will come once you're in the interview. It's going to happen no matter what. But if you know the answers to all your questions, that nervousness will fade away and you'll be able to get through your interview and you'll pass it. If you don't prepare at all, interviewing is going to be much harder. So just take the time, any day, any time possible you have to practice, do it. Just keep doing it up until the interview, and then you'll be ready and you'll pass it. Thank you for joining. I hope you learned a lot. Hope this video wasn't too long and kind of to the points of what you should know. And thank you. Peace.